man, recording here. I actually gonna send Nick a message. We just got together, recording.
We're phasing him out. That's what it is. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding.
No. All right, where's Cerebrus?
We haven't even really.
It's been a little bit, yeah. So, hey, we just hopped on to record if you're around. All right, so like I said, as always, seemingly been a hot minute. Been doing some different things going around. Let's see. Last time we recorded, it was right before Final X.
Mhm.
So if you want to think about, which there were some upsets in it. They weren't the upsets that we predicted or jokingly
predicted one. I think.
No, I predicted like 2 or 3, but like some of those were just
predicted Seth Gross.
Yes,
Not
I did.
getting upset, but like
I did predict it.
Yeah.
No, actually, I predicted like 2. No, did I even say 2 out of 3? I think I settled on 2 out of 3 that he'd win one, just based off of like trying to not be disrespectful to him.
Yeah.
Like although we both thought, Fix was gonna win it in 2. Yeah, I think it was kind of more of a. All right, he's gonna get 3 because we both like him, we both enjoy watching him wrestle, and he's been continuing to do it. So I guess let's just go with that. Like
Molinari, that one was weird.
Yeah, Molinari, she didn't get it. I think those that have continued to stay, I don't want to say in the spotlight, continue to stay active, and I don't know, maybe it sounds stupid to even mention and say, but we had like Seth Gross, Nate Jackson, and a few others like managed to like look good and stay in things because they're the ones that have been going. Evan Henderson who wrestled Yanni. Like these are the people who have been at every event, every Brutus Super event, every like freestyle thing, like during all the COVID stuff. Like they've been keeping their name and things. They've been competing, and
they're kind of without making it sound disrespectful, but they're journeymen almost. Like in a way, like they're kind of the workhorses. They're constantly working. Journeyman might not have been the best word to use, but you know what I mean.
Journeyman. There's a whole journeyman tournament, right? Like
they're the ones that are competing. They're
they're like the ones that big names are the ones that are sitting on top are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Yeah. They're resting their bodies. They're doing limited
every so often.
They're doing the limited competitions. They're going to Yazur Dogu, the one we can never say that pronounce it. They're going to those big tournaments. They're getting those big time matches and stuff. But we don't see a whole lot of them otherwise, which has always been kind of like the downfall to freestyle and Greco. It's like we get to some of our big names, and the greed in us as the spectator wants to see them compete so often. But the realization of knowing that they're protecting their bodies and they're peaking and they're doing what their stuff so they can be who we want them to be with being that world medalist, Olympic medalist, and world team member. So they're doing what they need to be doing for them without risking undue harm or injury and stuff. Whereas the others who haven't made it into those situations yet are competing more often. We're getting to see them compete. And I think there's something to be said about that those guys pulled off matches and they did stuff. Maybe jokingly the ones that I said.
Got the mask on in here.
Yep. Down there. Yeah. Jokingly the ones that I said I picked to win matches because of that reason, and also just because we're also going like on time. Is it their time yet? How much longer can some of these guys keep going? They didn't end up doing it.
Yeah.
David Taylor ended up beating Valencia. Jordan Burroughs beat Marsteller.
Well, Marsteller beat him once though.
Okay, yeah, but it's that thing though. It's like picked a few upsets, but I just didn't pick the right ones.
Yeah.
For to make it seem like I knew it all. So
I was pleasantly surprised. It
was a great Final X. So it really was good. All sorts of good stuff with all that there.
We need to get back on that. We need to be more consistent.
Yeah, so hopefully we can get back to being more consistent with things. And getting back on stuff. We've got Fargo coming up. Everybody's showing up to their World's training camps before they. Where are they going? It's not Siberia, is it? That's
Can tell you.
oh
I'm
gosh,
being
where are they going?
honest.
I can't remember, but they're all like I watched follow the different ones like they're showing up like the women's training center apparently is in Arizona, so they're all showing up out there to get that week-long one before they go overseas, I guess, to acclimate for a week before
Yeah.
competing and stuff like that. So we got all that going on. Looking forward to seeing Worlds and stuff coming up. But one of the bigger things to hop into, like I guess before we get into that though, is there anything else that we were missing from Final X?
Not from Final X, not in particular, no. It's been so many weeks, even the things that we probably should have talked about, I've done forgot already. So
yeah, kind of that's the problem with being off for a little bit. But that's all right. So if we kind of have like maybe a somewhat smaller episode today, that's all right. Those seem to, do okay. We can peek up in here. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, big news that just came out was, which everybody's probably already heard of by now, is Big Ten.
Yes.
So Big Ten just brought in, or how did they do that? Did they bring them in, or did they apply and were they let in?
I'll be honest.
You know?
I don't know. The NCAA confuses me. I think the Big Ten, like I think they applied to come into the Big Ten, and Big Ten was like, sure, like.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, they were referring to USC, Southern Cal, and UCLA.
Yep.
It seems like this is another step in the direction of creating these super conferences. Like, I know it's happening in football. A lot of conferences are now, like, I think the ACC and Pac-12 are talking about having a working relationship. I think Big Ten and SEC, I think it is, they're doing that too.
No, really?
I think, I mean, my brother would probably actually, oddly enough, would be the one who could, answer that one. But yeah, it seems like we're slowly drifting away from having smaller conferences now. Just gonna have everyone basically compete in like 4 big conferences.
Let's see, and we talked about that before, where we were looking at like, are we gonna go to some sort of like regional format? Like what who competes where? Like, is it SoCon and ACC together?
Yeah.
Is it Big Ten? But it's weird to me like how it's not regional anymore. Like I used to think that Big Ten was kind of like the up north schools.
It is because you have like Iowa, you have Michigan, you have Ohio State, you have Illinois,
Rutgers, you have Maryland.
Which those are more East Coast. But now you're taking California teams.
Yeah, that's what I say. And then like when you have ACC, it's the Atlantic Coast Conference,
which is kind of weird
when
you
think
have.
About. I mean, who's in the Atlantic Coast Conference? Because that's what it is, right?
Yeah. So you have Florida State, Miami, Pittsburgh, Syracuse, Clemson, Duke, North Carolina, Wake Forest, Virginia Tech, Virginia. Mm-hmm. And I'm probably missing a couple, but
it's kind of like southeast,
Except for I guess you can consider Pittsburgh and Virginia and maybe Syracuse.
No, Virginia's like at least on the coast.
It's on the coast, but it's more
depending on which school it is, where it's at, because their schools are mostly more inland schools.
Hey Trooper,
my buddy, feeling better, yes. All right, and then you have SoCon, which is Southern Conference. So seemingly the smaller schools are still within their stuff, and then you have Pac-12, which is where
that's
where
Oregon State, I think.
Where the one I was just looking, UCLA and USC. Weren't they both Pac-12 schools?
Yeah.
So they were Pac-12, which is Pacific.
The Pacific, yeah. So that's
and it confuses me in the sense that we have these names.
What's up?
Yes, he does. He says, "My best is his friend." Huh? You trying to get up in here? Get all.
Oh God!
There we are.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Nothing like an episode without Trooper jumping in Tyler's lap. So there's a little bit of confusion, I think. Before it used to be these regional areas and the schools were kind of in these conferences with all that and that kind of stuff like that. But now that like schools are turning into, or conferences are turning into basically big power schools and money, right? So I'm guessing.
Then you have Notre Dame, who is attached to nobody.
Which
is weird because it's football, they're attached to Big Ten mostly. but they're also attached to the ACC.
Uh-huh.
I think they can technically win the ACC championship. I think.
Technically, yeah, something.
Or something.
Which,
no, they could during COVID.
They could during COVID because there was
Yeah,
a spot for
but they're ACC in every other other sport. I mean.
But think about this though. I almost maybe were they not ahead of the game then with all this? Like, because does the conference really matter if you can go wherever you want just because whoever lets you in?
Yeah.
So in a way, I know you're not a Notre Dame fan,
Right.
but I almost respect them more from the get go and be like, what do we need to be associated with a conference for?
Well,
When a conference is nothing but money.
Well, the thing is, for the reason they didn't do the conferences is because one, they had to deal with NBC, and it would mean losing that NBC deal most likely. Two, they had, because they were considered independent, they only had to win 9 football games a year. Or no, back in the day, they didn't have 27 bowl games, or
Yeah.
47 bowl games or whatever. So it was a little more selective. But like back in the day, it's like I think it was either 6, it might have been 6 actually, 6 to 9 wins, somewhere around there. That if they won that many, they had like an at-large bid, so they could, which was kind of unfair to some of the other schools, which I didn't like.
But nowadays, with so many bowls, does it really matter anymore? There's
now it doesn't matter.
There's 15,000 bowl games, so anybody can get into a bowl game.
Yeah,
depending on where they are. You don't have to be associated with a conference because like if you don't like the conference you're in, apparently, if you think you can make more money, let's go to this conference.
Wait, why are we even talking about their football program? This is wrestling.
Yeah,
I thought about that, but
because we kind of segued off because we wanted to talk about them going into the conference and what does this mean and what did conferences initially stand for and how before we start talking about how are we going to but is it going to be more of a regional thing?
We should be making this decision.
Yeah, we should get us our press passes and let us make this happen. But how does this work now that we have California schools in the Big Ten, which is odd to me because I associate them with.
Well, not only that, you got to think about how's that going to affect the athletes? So you're coming from Los Angeles, flying to Michigan. Mm-hmm. You're crossing some time zones.
Because let's be real, for right now, then unfortunately, it's the school shirt, so it says football.
I didn't even recognize that.
Yeah, it's the.
Well, this is a soccer shirt, so
anything. But we can talk about any sports we want. It's our show. But let's be real. Right now, it's going to be about football.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about USC and UCLA being in those conferences to play football because they already have those teams. And as you said, what's that going to mean to their schedule when they have to travel across the country?
Because jet lag's a thing.
And it's now more than one game. You might have had 1 or 2 games in your schedule if you had that big thing like we're going to Michigan to go play so-and-so and it worked on the schedules. Well, now you're part of that conference. Now you have to play over there.
I just had a random thought about this, actually.
Or when they have to come see you, how does that benefit you now?
So I just had a random thought. And it's going to get into NIL. Part of me wonders, is this another way to treat college athletes more like professional athletes, where they're not going to have to focus on school? Because more than likely, here's what's probably going to happen. If UCLA has to travel to Michigan, Michigan has to travel Southern Cal or whatever, however it goes, they're probably going to have to travel a few days in advance to get through that jet lag. What's going to happen with their classes?
Mm-hmm. Unless they send teachers and stuff with them. Yep.
Which I doubt.
I know.
And then on top of that, it just seems like they're going more towards like a professional, basically a semi-pro type thing. It's like, okay, here's a team in California and this is the team from Michigan. They're going to have to go play each other now, and then eventually, even if it gets bigger, it could be like, oh, this team from California, or let's say Oregon and Clemson, they have a working relationship. Oh, this West Coast team's going to have to fly to the East Coast or vice versa, and they're going to be taking on, this is the battle of the coast type thing. It almost is starting to become like a semi-pro thing where, unfortunately, and I know I'm going to sound like, pretentious or whatever, where it seems like academics is going to get left in the rear view. In all honesty, I mean...
Okay, so my question with that is, with the schools that are doing this, and maybe I'm wrong, you say academics are left in the wayside. How much were those athletes going to classes anyway? Let's just say for football.
Very few, but...
Or is it just going to be now more of a,
it's going to be more on the nose now. Like, hey, we don't care about getting you in here for academics. You're here to play football.
Yeah, we can tell like during football season, we leave on Wednesday to go play a Saturday game, fly back on Saturday or Sunday. What's that gonna do for practices though, dude? Like, if you have 2 weeks in a row, you go practice and then
Fly. That'd be brutal.
Come back. You have class Monday and Tuesday, and then you're supposed to practice before you get on a plane on Wednesday.
I'm telling you, there's going to be a lot of confused professors. They're going to see a 300-pound lineman and be like, wait, that guy's in my class, but he's like...
On TV again.
He's 5'4" and 160 pounds in my class. Why is he this big here? That's probably what's going to happen. You're going to have... I mean, I'm joking. I'm not saying people are sitting in the class, but...
Or they have the note takers that go to classes and do stuff.
Probably. I mean, you're going to have... In the practices, you're probably going to have to have acclimation type weeks.
I wonder about that, like, because it's going to affect. Obviously, it's going to affect UCLA and USC more than it's going to affect the Big Ten schools that are already up in the northern part of the country.
Which then again, it could affect them because in the few chances that those Big Ten schools have to travel, the California teams are going to have a slight advantage.
Yeah, they will, but they'll travel to them once.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, they're having to travel because the majority of the teams are over here.
True.
They're having to go that much further. Which then leads to, let's get into wrestling now.
Yes.
Okay? So, with the addition of those teams, by golly, the excitement factor, and I'm going to be a killjoy here, the excitement factor of finally getting into seeing one of your things that we did many episodes ago, teams you want to see with wrestling singlets.
I did do that, and I said USC. Yeah.
USC, Miami, and a few others. So
I think I said USC was one.
You said USC. You said Miami. There were like 3
Oregon
others.
Was one because I said like.
Well, you wanted to bring it back, yeah.
Yeah.
So you had like 5 schools.
Yeah.
And it was a great thing. We got to look up to see what the other 2 schools were again. But USC, UCLA might have been one of them, but USC was definitely one of them.
But USC, yeah, I do remember that.
Now with them going into the Big Ten, man, the opportunity to see some California, some more, because don't get twisted, Cal Poly and some of those other schools out
Wrestling
there
State
are doing great and getting people. And
well,
they got
USC's
Cal Poly got Evan Wick this year, and they got some other transfers. Did they get Don Demas from Oklahoma?
I think so.
So now, like, those schools with the opportunity to get them on those campuses is something that is like awesome.
And what people also don't realize is USC has a club team, and from what I understand, their club team is actually pretty dang good.
Really?
So I mean, to me, it's the logical leap to go like, hey, we have a club team.
We're
coming into a wrestling conference.
You and I both think it's the logical leap.
Yeah.
And I think that's where if we see it happen, it's because they're going into the Big Ten, where it's a wrestling conference.
You can argue that it's a football conference. I would argue that the Big Ten, I would think it's more synonymous with wrestling because you look at
let's just say Big Ten is wrestling, ACC is basketball, and SEC is football. I mean, those are generalizations, and they're not knocks to other teams.
Yeah.
But when you generally think of a conference and you think of what's going on, that's just generally what we look at.
Does ACC have good football schools? Yes. Does Big Ten have good football schools and basketball schools?
Yes. Do they all have that? But that's just the generalization.
But when you're talking
SEC
about
is
wrestling,
football, ACC is basketball, Big Ten is wrestling.
When you're talking about wrestling,
it's just generalization. I know we hate generalizations for the most part, but I'm not trying to be offensive to any of the schools in any of the sports conferences. But they're going into a wrestling conference.
Yes.
So it makes sense for them to do it. Now, I think that is the only thing. I think that's the only thing that helps those schools in the chance of possibly getting wrestling is because it's a wrestling conference. Because from my understanding, this move with them going into the Big Ten is about money and other things.
Is there even a Big Ten school that doesn't have wrestling?
I don't know. That's a very good question. So my thing with that is having to look at it is one of the things I read though is it's a money move, and these schools are not looking to spend more money. They're getting into the conference and they're wanting in there. So it's very likely that we might not see wrestling at first, or at least for a little while. But I don't know how long that will be, because there's 2 things we have to think about. One, if they add wrestling, generally Title IX stuff, you have to add a women's sport too. So it's how many millions of dollars to not only just add the wrestling men's, but add to, I would love to see them add men's and women's wrestling. Go ahead and do both, take care of it all right there. But the logistics of all that, and will it always happen? I don't know.
Probably not. To me, it would make sense though because with the I don't say resurgence with the influx of women's programs in college wrestling now,
Mhm.
it seems like, hey, you're going to come in, might as well go ahead and do it and get ahead of the game. Like, so, because, okay, how many women's teams are in the Big Ten? I think it's, I think Iowa's going to have one.
Iowa's like the first one to
So
sit.
I think what's probably going to happen is if I'm USC and if I'm UCLA, I'm thinking, hey, we can get a jump on these other schools like Penn State or like Wisconsin. Are they big? Yeah,
Wisconsin's Big Ten.
yeah. So Wisconsin, like all these, like Illinois, like we can get a jump on them, and maybe we may not be a top men's program at first, but we will sure be a top women's program because we'll be one of the first.
Yeah.
So it.
And you already got Arizona, which is Pac-12, but
Yeah.
but they're already closer to you, and they're doing the
Yeah.
women's program.
And then you already have Big Ten, Pac-12 face-offs already, I mean,
Mhm.
and ACC, Big Ten, ACC
So-
matchups. Like,
I would hope that we do see those programs come
Yeah.
forward just on that factor alone. I am very skeptical of whether or not they'll do it just because of like how I was reading some of these articles about this being a money move and they're not looking to spend any more money and they're just kind of they're going to
Yeah.
go status quo with what they've got right now. But I think the opportunity is there and I would love to see it happen. I want to see the women's teams added to them and I want to see what the immediate post from Jordan Burroughs is like, any of y'all looking for a coach? And then the immediate like reply post from Jordan Oliver being, I'll be your assistant.
which, yes.
Now, just
I'm all for
fanboying
it.
out some more, like, imagine the recruitment power just to having those
Oh my
two.
God. I could see Burroughs coaching. I would say UCLA, honestly. I could see him coaching either, but I have a feeling.
And there's the other kicker. You're in the Big Ten Conference, and you're now recruiting. You're in California.
Los
Okay.
Angeles, California, or even Southern California. Both places are amazing. It's like, yeah, you could go to Minnesota where it's negative 20 degrees and you're having to condition and it's snowing all the time, or you can come train on the beach one day. Like, I'm sorry, as oh man,
I hear some. But
But,
yeah, let me
yeah.
check that out real quick. But yes, but no, the recruitment factor, that alone is amazing.
But yeah, so sorry, I was sending a text. But yeah, I agree. I mean, the recruiting process would be. I feel like recruiting for California schools would just be a no-brainer for a college kid. I mean, what's his name that came from Ferrari, AJ Ferrari? I feel like he would have been perfect, and I'll mention it when Purdy gets back in here. He would have been perfect for a Southern Cal or even UCLA. I mean, it's just, to me, it makes all the sense in the world to bring in wrestling with it, but, you know, like you said, you never know.
You never know.
I brought up a point, so
Okay.
I'm curious what you think. If UCLA or USC had a wrestling program like a few years ago, you tell me that I'm going to give you a name and tell me this is not a perfect fit. AJ Ferrari at one of the school. Tell me that would not be absolutely perfect.
I mean, I can't see him not in an Oklahoma singlet right now.
Yeah,
But
I mean, of course, but just imagine. Take the Okie State singlet out of it.
I just
Do you not see him as being the prototypical California boy wrestler?
I wonder in this case if it would have been detrimental for him because we
Oh,
would
it would have been.
have seen AJ Ferrari at Venice Beach just flexing, and
Doing deadlifts
he
all the
would
time.
not be NIL'd with WWE. He would
Yeah.
be with Flex Magazine and a bodybuilder right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I mean,
So-
tell me you wouldn't want to see like a heavyweight matchup between him and Gable, which
Yeah.
you know, I mean, but then again, like there are a few people I could
I
think
just-
of that just like, oh man, they seem like they would have the California vibe.
Yeah.
I mean, am I wrong?
Uriah Faber would be at every
Yeah,
wrestling match.
like, I'm telling you,
California.
I'm telling you, I could totally see like the you're coming. Hey, look, you're coming to the Big Ten. You're gonna be wrestling the best of the best. But would you rather be living in the cold, or would you rather be living near the beach? I'm telling you, any college kid, like I like
Dude.
woods and stuff like that. So I'm not a big beach person, but most college kids are probably gonna take
Dude,
Southern Cal over.
that's crazy to think about, like the recruitment power of
Yeah.
that. I mean, and they said that, like the brands said that if with Chattanooga when they were there, like like to recruit to this place, to
Mhm.
say like you can be here and be in the woods and be in this nice weather versus cold is such a game changer when it comes to recruitment.
Oh, it is.
So I mean, unless
Totally.
you're granted, yes, like a lot of these people going to Iowa and all that, they're fully committed to being in that wrestling room. They don't care what the weather's like outside because they're going to be inside in the heat.
Because these
anyway.
kids probably been wanting to go to
You know.
Iowa since they were knee high.
Yeah,
Like,
But imagine catching a Brand's brother. Not to say that any of the Brand's brothers would be leaving Iowa, but let's go back to Jordan Burroughs and Jordan Oliver. Imagine catching one of those guys out west,
yeah.
As your coach, and like, man, that would be
Yeah.
something else. Like, it'd be like, yeah, I think I'm going to California.
So I could go to California. It's not going to be freezing cold. I can train on the beach or whatever, and I'm gonna have Burroughs as a coach. I'm sorry, like most people with like half a brain would probably be like, yeah, I'm gonna take that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's don't get me wrong. Like I said, I like the woods. That's all great, but I mean, and then you got to think about like, oh, I'm gonna be getting paid so much from this NIL. Would I rather be making a lot of money in Iowa? Which, no offense to the city of like Des Moines or whatever, or can I be making a lot of money and go USC? Now, granted, I'm sure some parents are gonna be like, that's a nightmare to some parents thinking like, oh, they're gonna be making money and living, in California. That's a problem. But I don't know. As a young college kid, I definitely could see UCLA and USC having a lot of recruitment power.
So, all right, going back to NIL deals. So we started talking about this when we first heard.
Coaches, actually, did you want to talk about that first?
Yeah, sure. Let's go coaches. Other than Jordan
Burroughs,
Burroughs, Jordan Oliver.
I say he goes UCLA. That would be a cool fit for me.
For you.
For me, yeah, I think it'd be
for
cool.
You're gonna use up your eligibility.
Yeah. So
for me, Tyler says he's a mountain man, but he's just been waiting on Jordan Burroughs to recruit him to go to the beach.
Oh yeah, I mean, tell me you wouldn't want to train on a beach, like do some beach wrestling with Jordan Burroughs, like, and then get double legged.
I did not even think about it. Like there's like a surge in that popularity of the USA beach wrestling.
Yeah, college beach wrestling.
Could you that's your first two schools with a program,
and then that would be super beneficial to the whole fight shorts thing because it's like, hey, you're gonna because we're not gonna get our singlets sandy and stuff because you get to wear fight shorts and
you're at the beach. AJ Ferrari is the new beach world champion.
Exactly, I would see that. I could see that.
It's still world championship and it's still wrestling.
And I'm sure if anyone from Big Ten or NCAA is listening to us right now, they're probably got like a notepad and be like, there's some money making ideas right here.
Big Ten schools are like, how do we get this indoor beach court to fight the beaches of California?
Yeah.
Yeah, can't.
I'm telling you, that would be such a huge event that you could sell. Be like,
dude,
we're going to have
like the camps and stuff like that.
USC versus Iowa on the beach. Have a best of, or do like a 2-series thing.
I think they are kind of like seriesed out, like the.
That's what I'm saying. Like, but have a series. So you do one where it's on the beach, and then one where it's on the football field outside in quasi cold weather. And it's like
you won't have to have the heaters that they had when they were out.
So I mean, it'd be funny because you'd have Iowa guys who are probably out of their element, and then you go and you take the California boys and you go to.
They'd be mad because all the Iowa guys get burned on their first day on the beach, and then they can't wrestle the next day because they're all sunburned up.
Like, what is this? It's everyone's wearing sunscreen.
We have to. Why do we put stuff on our bodies? Normally, I have 3 jackets on. That's all the sunscreen I need.
I'm just saying, there's $1 million ideas right there, and the Big Ten and NCAA could be laughing all the way to the bank off our ideas like they usually do.
All right. So apparently you have some coaches' ideas that you want to go to.
UCLA, Burroughs, Oliver. I'll be honest. I could see. It would be cool to see somewhere like for USC. This is a one that I don't think would happen, but it'd be really cool if it did because I can see him finally stepping out on his own. Would be like Metcalf. Like Metcalf being like, hey, look, I'll take a head coaching position with a new school. Like, he would be a good one. And Ramos.
I could more see Ramos. Ramos looks more like he could be
Yeah,
out on the beach. Metcalf, like when you talk about like I prefer mountains, he seems more
he does seem
more adept to stay in like Virginia,
yeah,
Iowa,
but then again,
Wisconsin.
that paycheck that they could probably provide for him. I'm sorry, like,
Oh yeah,
and
no.
he could have his own.
Well, he used to be a skater too, so
Yeah, I mean,
he could be out.
it would be. It's not the most ideal fit. I think Tony Ramos would probably be a better fit. But at the same time, I could see like Metcalf being like, I've been an assistant. Like, let me see what I can do on my own.
Yeah.
As a first year, like a new program, he could put his stamp on this program and create a culture like with what he thinks and like with everything he's learned. Which, if you're USC, makes sense because it's like, okay, this guy's he's wrestled under the best coaches and he's been on a coaching staff with some like really amazing coaches. He could bring a culture into a new program that is just as competitive as like an Iowa State, Virginia Tech, like even though Virginia Tech's ACC, but you know what I mean. Like he could bring in a culture that's a winning culture, and I just think like if USC is looking for a head coach, it's like why not shoot Metcalf an offer?
There's so many good coaches out there though right now. Like that's why when you were said that I was like, man, I wonder who he's really got in mind because. I mean, there's just so many people out there that I think...
there's tons.
It's just... The coaching world is an amazing world in and of itself to, like, look. Like, when you see these coaches and these positions and new things come up, it's like, man, there's always somebody. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about this guy or somebody else taking over here.
And I'm sure you could...
assistants going over
you
there.
You could figure someone out, and I'd be like, that's also a good fit. Like,
yeah, no, like I said, just thinking about it, like, like who'd want to go where and things like that.
Yeah.
So, granted, we see a lot of people moving to ACC schools and Big Ten and out west or not on the East Coast, but like just getting some more of them to run to the West Coast, would be be cool. And
I mean, because California's a pretty good wrestling state too, from what I understand.
Yeah, Fresno State, Cal Poly.
Yeah.
The emergence of those programs.
Well, I mean, even like, as far as high school goes.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, but like, those guys being able to pull those people from that state, because you always get those good recruits. I mean. If I remember, Valencia's, I thought they were from California.
Yeah, I think they were.
So imagine keeping them at home,
I
mean, home
state
and stuff like that. So,
and I mean, honestly, like that could also you're talking about Valencia. Like once his competing days go behind him, that could also be a move.
Yeah, no, I could see. And for him, and he stayed in Arizona, so he's still West Coast.
Yeah.
So like staying on all the way out there with all that for sure. I could definitely see that.
I don't know.
So.
To me, like I said, like the best immediate choice, like if this is big, if they were starting a program this year or next year, my first choice would be like, man, Metcalf, like the culture he could bring to a brand new program.
All right, so how many years till we see them pull a wrestling team? Let's just go ahead and take that guess.
So I'm gonna go because I don't know
I want it immediate. I want 1 year, but
that's what I was gonna say. I don't understand the bureaucracy of it, and I don't know how long all that stuff takes to get in motion. I would say within a 2 to 3 years, max. 3 years max. 1 year is like super immediate. Realistic, probably could be 2 years, maybe. I guess. Like, I don't. Then again, for like someone like USC who already has a club team. It doesn't seem like it would just be hard to be like, hey, we're gonna make this a varsity sport. Pull back a sport you currently have for men's sport to fill that role and make that like a club sport.
Yeah.
Because then you just kind of do a swap where it's like you don't really have to worry about title. I mean, I would assume I'm not like well versed in the legality of it, but like just do a switch. But like, okay, say USC's baseball team. I don't know if they have a good baseball team or not.
I thought they did.
They might. I don't know. But like USC has, say they don't have a good baseball team, or say they don't have a good swimming team. I don't know. Take whatever team and be like, okay, we're gonna pull you back to be a club team, and we're gonna promote wrestling to be a varsity sport. To me, that would be one way of doing it. And for USC, I could see that being an option where they could do it quicker. UCLA, I don't think they have a club team. Could be wrong. So for them, it would probably be on the longer side, maybe the 3 years or more.
Yeah. What I wonder about before I make a call on how many years I think it could happen, or whether I do think it will happen, would be one. I want to find out the answer. Do any Big Ten teams not have wrestling? Okay, so that would be my first question. Because if not, then I almost see them therefore getting a team that much quicker. Because let's face it, we've talked a lot about a certain local college not having a program and wondering why they don't have a program with the plethora of good schools in the AC, the Southern Conference I'm not Southern Conference, the oh god, I just broke Southern Slam's the high school one, but the Southern Scuffle,
Yeah.
Being here, like why doesn't Clemson have a team yet? Because
I don't know.
But that's what worries me about them.
Well, I
now,
think for Clemson,
but with ACC though,
you have other teams who don't.
At least Clemson's not the only team in the ACC that doesn't have it. So I think that might be not its saving grace by any means. It should have it, period.
Yeah.
But that might be enough reason there and alone that hey, we have other schools in our conference that don't have wrestling, and we're just fine with the status quo of what we have. But if those two schools entering are the only two without, does that put a little bit of pressure on them to be a part of the Big Ten?
I would say so.
To have it. So if there are any schools in the Big Ten that do not have wrestling already, then I will say that it will be very difficult to see those two programs get wrestling.
Yep.
That being said, if there are no other programs that don't have, if every other school in the Big Ten has wrestling, then I see within 3 years that one, if not both those schools having it. But if it just has
let's look up
one
Big
or
Ten
two.
real quick. Let's just look who all's in that conference.
Check it out. Let's see. Big Ten, unless anybody knows. Why do I do this? I see my kids. Do any Big Ten conference schools not have wrestling? Though all 14 conferences current institutions sponsor the sport, wrestling is not mandated by the league, but there is no requirement in the Big Ten school to have wrestling nationally.
That does not answer the question. Let's see.
Though all 14 of the conferences currently sponsor the sport. No. So currently all four, but it does not mean it's mandated for them to have it.
Should be.
But at least if they should be. So at least it says they all do. Man, why don't I learn something with my kids? Just ask it.
Yeah. I mean that would make sense. Okay, so if every team in the conference outside of two who are going to be new, to me it's a no-brainer that it's like let's do.
Because if there's 14, 15, 16, so that'll be 16 schools.
That makes Big Ten amazing.
Huh?
That makes Big Ten more amazing.
Do you see Big Ten do something? Okay, now here's something else completely. The SEC does it with football, don't they? Don't they do an East and a West?
What do you mean?
Like SEC football, and they're like SEC East.
Oh,
SEC,
yeah.
SEC
ACC does it. ACC has Atlantic and Coastal divisions.
In the SEC.
Yeah.
So could we see?
I think Big Ten already does that.
Do they do that already?
I was just wondering
with wrestling because that's 16, like 8-8, and then like the championship. I don't know, like
for ACC wrestling. I don't know if that.
We have the Big Ten tournaments all individual anyway.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at like the team sport aspect of it. How do we like draw those teams into something?
I mean, but no, I kind of like that. If you already have 16 teams, like I know the ACC doesn't do this, they don't have that many. But if you're like the Big Ten and you have that many.
Looking at 16 teams.
Oh, that would be amazing to have two different conferences, the East Conference and the West Conference, or whatever you want to call them. But like,
California Conference.
Yeah. So like, you have these two conferences, and then the champion of both can like wrestle against each other for like the duel.
For a duel.
Have a
and
duel.
then you still have your Big Ten tournament.
Yeah.
For
individual.
For the individual. I don't know. I'm still a fan of like the duels and want to see duels happen. And
the conference tournament, the dual meet tournament could be mid-season too, because you don't really need to do seeding as much. You can just draw and be like, okay, this is the number one team, because you're not having to worry about the individual seeds as much. You're only having to worry about the seeds of the team.
I just wonder how they would split it to keep it even-ish. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm sure like someone way smarter than me could figure that out. But like to me, that just makes sense.
I'm sure we could figure it out, and then somebody else can steal our idea again.
Yeah, I mean, like okay, so what happens usually? The Scuffle, the Cliff Keen tournament, and Midlands. So you have that.
But those are all individual tournaments.
They are, but I'm saying like that also takes place in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out how my idea of doing a mid-season dual tournament could work.
I think it would just be like kind of like how football does. Like your schedule would be based off of like your side of the conference, and then
Well, okay, so
kind of then maybe toward a certain point after everybody's wrestled.
here's what you could do. Here's what you could do. So you have two different conferences, right? Let's call them East and West for right now. You take the West Conference, and you can do this on separate days. Do the West Conference, bracket one day, East Conference bracket on another, and then set up the championship match for another week or something. Because then you could have.
I almost think you could just go by their regular schedule, and then whichever team has the best thing, and then you have the.
But I was thinking because if you're doing the dual tournament format, you have 8 teams per division.
Mm-hmm.
You have an 8 team single elimination tournament.
Yeah.
Then not only is that exciting because it's single elimination, but it's like you could run through an 8 team dual tournament fairly quickly.
Watch that.
Yeah, I mean you could run that here in middle school. That'd take like an hour, but no, like for college, you could do that as like I would say maybe a few hours because you have them running on separate mats. You can do the side by side cam. And then
you have 2 matches and then 2 matches.
Yeah, 2 and 2, and then eventually it's just like you could run that fairly quickly.
I would love to see it happen. All right, let's go ahead and get the Big Ten dual conference championships split up East-West. We called it here today on the what is today's date? The 7th of July, 2022. Just to go ahead and put a note on that on many of the other ideas we have put out. I mean, besides that, man, my only other question, I guess, for like today's stuff was wondering, like, NIL, name, image, likeness. We talked about it when it first came out. We didn't know how it was going to affect things. What, like, has it been a big thing? Has it not been a big thing?
It's been a huge thing.
How so? Like, what have you seen with it being a huge
definitely
thing?
playing a factor in football recruiting. I know that for a fact.
Really?
Yes. It is definitely playing a factor in football recruiting.
Like, who can get to...
Basically, yeah, like, who can... You've noticed some people going to... and this is not, like, a knock on anything. You've seen some, like, really top recruits go to, like, historically black colleges, which is not a problem, but, like, you have the number 1 recruit in the nation, and it's like, oh, I'm going to go to Jacksonville State. And it's kind of like, wait a minute, that's kind of weird, because Deion Sanders is the coach there, I'm pretty sure. They go, and then Deion Sanders, I'm sure, has some pull. You're noticing, like, some people from, like, committing to Oregon or committing to Alabama or something. Like, I mean, still, that's plays a factor, but it's playing a big role right now, especially because you're seeing some of these contracts that these people are getting. Like, I think Arch Manning is going to go play at Texas.
I did see that. Like, he would decide to go.
I think it's like close to like $1 million deal.
Oh yeah.
So it's getting to a point where who can pay who what.
Yeah, you just cut a corner off there. I'll do that in a second. It's okay. Yep.
But no, I feel like with more NIL, until it gets regulated, you're gonna see a monopoly with either teams like, so you're gonna see Alabama because Alabama's historical. You're probably gonna see Oregon. I know I've mentioned them a lot already, but like Oregon because Oregon has the Nike. That's where Nike's pretty much from.
Yeah,
so
well, I mean, Bill Bowerman and all that stuff.
Whoever started Under Armour, that's somewhere. Someone has a deal with Under Armour. So then you have that school. Honestly, North Carolina, Jordan, like. So yeah, I feel like it's going to get worse until they regulate it, but right now it has played a factor in recruiting.
Yeah. Okay, I've been wondering about it. Like, I mean, you see it. Let's see. Y'all ready for Fargo? I saw Kale. For Team Alabama. I've been wondering about it. Like, yes, I've seen it, but I've been wondering about, like, has it only affected the big names that we thought it would affect? My other
I can tell you
thing...
it's affected Clemson some.
I just haven't seen it, so I don't know how much it's affected.
Yeah.
Although I have wondered about something like, what do they say? Like Real Woods moved from Stanford to Iowa. All right.
Wait, that happened?
Yeah, you didn't know about that? Where have
How?
you been?
I don't even know.
Where has this Joker been?
Then again,
Okay.
I did get a weird Facebook ban for a while.
Hmm.
I don't know what from. So I basically everything on my account was like I couldn't really post anything, so I kind of stopped using Facebook, and I don't really use Instagram anymore. But so I kind of avoided the social media, but I completely missed Real Woods going to Iowa. I like the move actually.
Yeah.
Wow, how long ago did that happen?
This summer. So
Okay, so yeah, it would have been around the time. I've also been on vacation, but yeah, with that weird Facebook ban, I don't know why it banned me. You get those weird things, and it's like you get restricted for like 20 days or something.
I don't know.
It was so stupid.
I don't ever
I
post
fought
anything.
it, and they ended up overturning it.
I don't ever post anything except for like shirt
Yeah.
stuff and like family stuff. And you
Yeah.
only post meme stuff, so
Well, yeah, I've slowly stopped doing that. I think what
you
happened
only
was
use.
I
They
made
got
a
tired of
comment.
they got tired of you and
Yeah.
Nina just posting.
I
everything.
actually I know I remember what it was. The comment was I was tagged Nina in something, and I mentioned something about it was a video game, and I was like, oh, I would smoke you in that.
Oh, so it's like okay,
Yeah.
which I guess like with today's day and times with certain things
Yeah.
and timing and stuff like that.
And
Gotcha.
then again, I know it's an algorithm, so they can't go back and look. But I mean, like we've been in a relationship for 3 years. I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah,
bullying her, like
No.
And
That makes sense.
yeah.
But
But it banned me for a while, and then I had to get them to look at it, and it took a while for them to look at it.
and then once they did, they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so I was off social media, but yeah, Real Wars to Iowa.
So Real Woods to Iowa, I heard something about like whatever scholarship they were offering him, plus his NIL deal that he can make over there was buku bucks. So
Mhm.
besides like hearing that one, and obviously knowing that like Spencer Lee is with Brutus, waiting to see his shoe drop, I just wondered like who's making money off of these things still? Is it still just like who we said before, like big top names? I mean, I know
Yeah.
everybody has the option to and ability to, but like
I would be
I'm
honest.
I'm just really curious to see who all is still really benefiting from this, like, and how much are they benefiting from this, and how is it working for them? Like, are they all now like, are they getting taxed off of it too? Like, I mean,
Yes.
so like,
They
but
would
that's
have
what
to be.
well, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, what in a way, what college kid is ready to have an accountant to handle taxes for NIL?
Oh, and how many shady accountants are there going to be because
Bingo and
these young kids
managers
know
and stuff
nothing
like yeah.
about
So
like finances.
yeah, so I've just been curious about that. I hadn't heard anything, so I just didn't know if like you've
No,
heard any more
I feel
about
like
it.
it's going to be for the bigger ones. The bigger names are going to be the ones making the money. I'm sure, like, younger guy or not younger, but like lesser known
Yeah.
guys might make some off like camps. Like, hey, I'm gonna make $300 because I'm gonna do this camp for.
Which I still wish
Yeah.
they should just get that and not be taxed for it. Just give it. These are
Yeah.
college kids. Give them the $300 for camp. Give them $500. Give them $1,000 for camp. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean-
Whatever it is, like just give it to them. Don't tax them. They're like traveling, living out of their car for a weekend, going places,
Yes.
doing stuff
Like-
and now they're gonna get taxed on some of this stuff now and like.
I mean, it's benefiting people like Spencer Lee, who's probably gonna make close to like at least the six figures, at least
you think?
off the shoe deal. Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
shoe deal. Yeah, I was gonna say
Just from
like
the shoes, like shoes alone, he'll probably make close to six. And then then you got to think about how many people are like the wrestling fanatics or BJJ fanatics. They're gonna be like, hey, would you come do a video?
mhm,
And so you're probably gonna see people like Spencer
yeah.
Lee, Gable Steveson. They're gonna have instructional videos of like Spencer Lee will probably have one about like
His
how to
bar.
wrestle with no ACLs, and then
It's gonna be the Spencer Lee bar arm series. Is all that's
well,
gonna be.
yeah. It's like how
I'm
to
gonna get
wrestle
it.
without an ACL. Okay, so the way to do this, but
Yes.
you'll see probably like
How can I incorporate that into old man style wrestling?
yeah, Gable Steveson. You'll see how to just
How to do
be a
it.
beast.
How to do the no hands backflip.
Yeah,
So
you're gonna see
yeah.
some cool videos on probably wrestling fanatics in the coming years, but
yeah, I've just been curious on how all that's working out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I imagine it's all there, but just I don't know. I got to see some more. The transfer portal, I think I'm gonna ruffle some feathers. I think is a great thing. I think it
to an extent,
the
to an extent.
ability to I think the ability to recognize that kids do not deserve to be locked into one
Yeah.
place just based off of something that they did when they were 16, 17, 18 years old.
Yes.
I think the
Love
life
that.
is built on changes,
Yep.
going and doing what's best for you. And yes, I get the whole like, well, so and so wasn't a starter, but he put in the work and now as a senior, now he's a starter. great for him. But that's the place that was best for him to be or her to be. Those that move and transfer and do things, I'm like, hey, they're doing what's best for them and what's, with any job or career change, I think the ability to do that and have that out there, I think it's awesome. And
so you're going to have my boomer response right here saying, like, there's an aspect I love of it. Mm-hmm. And again, it's like you said, the change, doing what's best. Like, if people didn't transfer and do what's best for them, Bryce Meredith.
Yep. Then go back to Wyoming.
Doesn't go back to Wyoming. Doesn't become a superstar.
3-time All-American.
Yeah. Like
NCAA finalist.
If he would have stayed behind, what was it, a Kevin Jack of NC State, who he ended up being better than, we never would have saw that. All because he was homesick, which understandable. Mm-hmm. Not going to criticize him for that. The issue with the transfer portal I have is that you're seeing, mainly in football, I don't see this as much in wrestling, is you're seeing people who aren't being starters instead of just being like, hey, let me try to win out the battle and like maybe improve. Or like, hey, there's something I need to work on, I need to get better at so I can start. Instead of doing that, you're seeing a lot of people just like, oh, I'm not starting, cool, I'm out. And again, that's a competitive nature of some people. Some people would rather just be like, I'm good enough, I don't need to work on something, let me just leave where I'll be appreciated. Not saying that's the case for everyone. I don't like that aspect of it because you are seeing
I get it, but I think that will plan itself out. You're going to be that same person no matter where you go. So whether or not you get better where you go or not, that's
I haven't seen it in wrestling. I've seen it in football, and now football again. That could be the day and age of how people are nowadays.
No, it could also just be because with football, there's so many more people that there's many more opportunities and places for people to go to.
You also have a lot more prima donnas sometimes. But in wrestling, I haven't seen that. But I feel like that's a pitfall of the transfer portal. Mm-hmm. However, love the fact that if something's not working for somebody, like you sign in. I mean, when these teams are recruiting you, they're putting on the best possible face for you. Like, this coach he's been super nice.
So it's, and again,
in that wrestling room,
you're 17, 18 years old, you know, like, you're going in places.
The Brands Brothers.
It's a recruitment trip. That's exactly what it is. It's supposed to make it look great.
Yeah.
You know,
the Brands Brothers, I'm sure they're super nice to you during that recruiting trip.
They don't send you to the cafeteria when they're not making good food. Yeah. You know, they're not giving you the tour of the areas that's under construction. They're only showing you the best of the best.
Look at this football game. But no, like, the Brands Brothers, I bet they're amazing to be around on recruiting trips. You put me in a wrestling room?
You're saying they're not amazing to be around at all times?
During the wrestling room? Absolutely not. I bet you that they will bite your head off in a heartbeat. And I'm saying, like, for some kids, that might not fit for them. It might not. Some people might like that. I mean,
although at the same time, I don't think they would give any false pretenses about how they're going to do their
stuff.
I
mean, I think also most kids who are good enough in wrestling to be recruited by Iowa know who they are and probably like, okay, these are going to be no-nonsense guys.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, just theoretically speaking, or hypothetically speaking, you're going to have some coaches who are going to bring these guys in who you may not know their coaching style per se. Like, so you might get in there and they're like, oh, man, Coach such and such is a super nice guy. Then you get into the wrestling room and it's like, oh, this guy's a nightmare. Like, and then, you need to leave. I mean, and that's okay. That is okay. That happens. Like, you get a job. It's not a good fit for you. It's toxic. Don't stay.
Yeah.
And so that's where I agree with you. I love the transfer portal for that reason, but I do understand that there is that risk factor of it kind of, it might breed some lack of competitiveness in people.
Yeah. And then my thought on that, though, is like those people will continue to not be competitive. So it's going to be
possibly
wherever you're at with it. So.
But I mean, again, like I said, one of the best stories or best wrestlers, most exciting wrestlers, Meredith. Had the transfer thing.
But that was before the transfer portal.
Yeah, it was. I'm saying him not being able to transfer, like, if he wouldn't have been able to do that, never would have had that. We never would have had the deer wrestling thing he did, and like it's very beneficial in some cases.
Oh yeah.
Nick Suriano's making sure he's like the Kevin Durant of college wrestling. Like he wants to try out every team. I think.
Yeah,
He's like,
amazing.
let me start at Penn State.
And then
They go to Rutgers. Then let's go to Michigan.
you saw that thing I did tag you in though with him with the BJJ stuff now too.
Really?
Yeah, I guess.
Oh,
you
I did
remember.
see that. Yeah, I did see
Yeah.
that. I did see it.
So I mean, he's had the best promo stuff, like that Wolverine poster,
Yes.
BJJ stuff.
Whoever does
like,
his artwork stuff.
yeah. So
Good for
awesome. All right, well, cool. I guess I'll cover for today, and we'll try to be back somewhat more regular. We'll see what happens after next week.
Yeah.
Holding down the fort here,
Maybe
and
people
then
do it in the schools.
yeah. Hey, there we go.
That'd be
There we
cool.
go. That'll be cool. All right, guys. We will catch you same bat time, same bat channel, which is really not very consistent at all, but we'll figure it out.
Bye bye.